All right. We are about 15 minutes behind, which is fine. I thought we'd be a little behind. I thought that might happen. But that's okay. Let's get on into it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant, you had an opportunity. Obviously, you read them. So now you've familiarized yourself with that series of text messages that you received from Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
Would you, let me ask, I'm going to ask you the same question again. Would you consider those text messages as you reviewed them when you received them from Brian Higgins as being flirtatious or romantic in nature?
I would not categorize them to that extent. Certain parts of it might be, but the total conversation, if you want my opinion, I can provide you with it.
Was there some flirtation in the text messages that you noted?
There are terms that I used. You're hot, witty, stuff like that. You know, talking about banging and hooking up.
Yeah, that's kind of flirtatious.
What word would you use to describe them as not flirtatious?
The totality of the conversation?
Sure. Let's start there.
My opinion is that it's a angry girlfriend trying to set up a hookup to her John.
To her jump?
To her John.
To her John.
Yeah.
Would you consider the responses from Brian Higgins to be flirtatious in nature?
There are conversation parts that are enticing, maybe a little of...
He's making himself look like a fool.
Advances, but...
This guy's looking like a fool right now.
The totality of, to put a label on the whole thing, my opinion is that she's trying to get revenge.
Get revenge?
Probably. Yeah, okay.
Yes, get revenge.
On John?
Yeah.
For what happened
possible.
On New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Okay. When you say revenge, you don't mean physical revenge.
Well, emotional revenge. She's trying to hook up with Higgins and then hurt John by cheating on him.
And in fact,
that's logical.
You know that
well, you do have some deductive skills.
Was not privy to these text messages, right? Okay.
Privy.
I'll allow that. Do you know that?
I do not, Your Honor, no.
He's not on these texts, is he?
I don't know if their accounts are synced at this point. I don't know if he's seen them. I don't know.
He's not. His phone. You know what his phone number is. You guys got his phone, right?
We do have his device, yes.
Do you have any evidence that his account is somehow, I don't even know if that means synced with what Jeffrey's account?
Not from his device, no, but he could have seen the text message.
Okay, so there's no evidence that he was synced. His account was synced with anything, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
There's no evidence.
You were facing the other way. I didn't hear.
There's no evidence that his account was synced with anything.
Not his device that we have, no.
And you don't have, as you sit here, you don't have any evidence whatsoever that he saw any of these text messages, correct?
We don't have that, but I do not know.
Okay. So as you sit here, my question is very simple. Do you have evidence, affirmative evidence, that John O'Keefe ever saw these text messages?
I do not have evidence that he saw them,
okay.
no.
So would you agree that the text messages show a romantic interest, for whatever motivation, a romantic interest from Brian Higgins toward Ms. Reed?
You have to ask that differently.
In your mind, as you read the text messages, did you determine in your head that there was a romantic interest by Brian Higgins toward Karen Reed?
In my mind, I saw the text messages for what they were, initiated by Karen Reed, and began a text message conversation with Brian Higgins.
And Brian Higgins was responsive to those text messages, correct?
They did communicate back and forth.
He was responsive to the overtures that Ms. Reed made toward him, correct? Suggestions. Let's get together for a drink, come over to my house, I'll come over to your house, things of that nature. Those went back and forth between the two, correct?
Yes, they went back and forth. Yes.
And did you determine that there was an interest by Brian Higgins in Karen Reed?
I read that he repeatedly asked her, what's her plan, what's her goal, what's her interest, what's her intent.
Did that show you an interest on his part in her?
I think at one point he said he was confused, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or what's the term he used? He was unsure what she wanted.
He called her hot.
He did, yes.
He called her witty.
Right from the rip, yes.
He said he wanted to spend time with her.
Spend time, yes, yeah.
He was interested in going over to her house.
Yes,
He was interested in her possibly coming over to his house.
yes,
He told her that he thought she was hot, his words, from the jump, correct?
from the jump, yeah.
How did you interpret that?
From the jump, I would interpret it as right from the beginning, maybe the first time they saw each other, laid eyes on each other. I mean,
As a matter of fact, he basically said that, didn't he? In the text message, from the first time I saw you, I thought you were hot.
yes.
He constantly was using phrases, to use your words, phrases interested in knowing how she felt about him, correct?
Gotcha.
Sustained you to ask it differently, Mr. Jones.
Did you interpret any of his text messages as Brian Higgins being interested in knowing how she felt, what she was thinking about him?
Objection.
Ask it again.
He's
When
asking
you
how
first
he
saw
interpreted
these
it.
text messages,
There's
and
something
you
wrong with
reviewed
the.
them, did you interpret those text messages in your mind? That's what I'm interested in your mind, as Brian Higgins being interested in knowing how Karen Reed felt about it.
I believe his statement indicates that he was interested in seeing what her interest was, what her intention were,
That's
and questioning the fact that she's
why.
dating
Why do you think that
live-in
was?
boyfriend with his buddy.
Why do you think he cared? I mean,
He used the word ghost several times, correct?
I do recall reading the word ghost.
How did you interpret that word?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I interpreted ghost in the common slang terminology as to abandon conversation, stop
As in
communicating.
to ghost someone.
He indicated that 2 different times in the text string, correct?
You're ghosting me.
I know I read the text messages, but reading them out loud to a room full of people, I might not have remembered how many times the term ghost came through.
Fair
I was
enough.
concentrating more on the reading, not of
That's
the
reasonable. That's true.
comprehension of each word.
Fair enough. But you did note that he used that term in his text messages to her, correct?
I think I recall at least once that the term ghost was present in the communication.
Did you interpret that? I'm looking for what was in your mind. Did you interpret that, the use of that word by Brian Higgins, as showing some level of frustration at her abandonment of the conversation?
No, I did not.
Not at
No,
all?
no.
No, lots of people say, "Hey, why are you ghosting me?" when they're not upset about being ghosted.
Have you ever heard the phrase, "you ghosted me"?
Yes.
How do you interpret that phrase, just in general?
I've heard it communicated between other people. I've never used the term ghosted. I think it's a little after my time in communicating with others, but I take it as you stopped responding to my text messages.
Do you take that, do you interpret that, or did you interpret that as a positive or a negative comment? You ghosted me.
That's a little vague, the question.
I interpret it as a matter of fact, like you stopped talking to me. I never thought about it in a positive or negative connotation. I never gave it any thought.
As you sit here now, if you do give it thought, would you put a positive or a negative connotation on the phrase, you ghosted me?
Objection.
That's not relevant.
You're aware that based on the text messages that we just saw, there was a series of text messages that went back and forth starting in mid-January and basically ending around January 23rd, correct?
This chain of text messages began in January 12th and ended January 29th.
And just to make the point, it doesn't almost matter what he answers. A lot of this is that Jackson is actually talking to the jury. And how the hell could they not have looked at him as if he's a potential suspect here to try and run that down? You know, he said trust and but verify. Well, where's the verify? Where's the verify on someone who has prime motive here?
Right. I'm going to get to the 29th, but the back and forth ended on January 23rd, did it not?
I don't recall as specifically. I can leaf through it and tell you what it is. I know I read the dates out loud, and again, I was concentrating on reading.
What the hell's wrong with Rumble?
Do you have the document in front of you?
I do.
Could you turn to the last page?
Yes, sir.
I believe it's the last page. It may be the second to the last page or something.
I'm trying to fix it. I'm sorry, Rumble. Well,
Do you see an entry on January 23rd, 2022, a text message from Brian Higgins, thought you were all set?
Yes.
And Ms. Reed responded with talking?
I think I'm live now.
Question mark. No. Period.
It
Correct?
says I'm live now.
That is her
Rumble.
response.
Mr. Higgins then responds, with 4 M's behind the H, correct?
That's correct.
And then he responds again. By the way, did Ms. Reed
They're almost working
respond
now.
to the
Sorry, that was not me.
No, she did not.
And then he follows up with, you sure, with no punctuation, correct?
That's correct.
Did Ms. Reed respond to you're sure?
She did not.
It's
The
working
next
now.
text is on January 29th at 11:32 p.m., correct? I'm sorry, January 28th at 11:32 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Is that from Ms. Reed or from Mr. Higgins?
At 11:32 p.m. on Friday, January 28th, it is from Mr. Higgins.
That's all I ask. And now, can you tell the jurors what that text is? And then the next text immediately after it.
Well,
So between January 23rd and January 28th, would you describe Ms. Reed's side of the conversation as having ghosted Mr. Higgins?
no, she initiates the conversation. You had me read the second text message in the chain.
Between January 23rd, when that last text message was sent by Brian Higgins, until January 28th at 11:32, would you describe that as Ms. Reed having ghosted Mr. Higgins for those 5 days?
Strictly looking at the text message communications and not knowing whether they.
Correct. I'm not asking you to speculate. I know there's other stuff you want to say. I'm asking you just to read, but just to answer the question that I've asked. Based on the text that in front of you, Sergeant Bukenik, does it appear that Ms. Reed ghosted, as you define the term, Mr. Higgins, from January 23rd until January 28th?
One could read into that in that manner, yeah.
And then on January 28th, Sergeant Bukenik, when Brian Higgins sends, well, did Ms. Reed respond?
No, she did not. They were together at the same location.
Did she respond to the text?
On that day?
Correct.
Not on text message, no.
You said they were together.
You saw a video of them.
Means that Brian Higgins was together in the same room with Miss Reed when he sent his text, correct?
Yes.
And she ignored it, didn't she? Okay.
As far as you could tell, she ignored it. You see the video.
You
see
also
there's no text
received from Mr.
response.
Higgins certain text messages between
We're focusing on his mental state,
him, Mr. Higgins,
meaning
and John
the
O'Keefe
cop's mental state.
himself, correct?
Bukenik's.
Yes, we did.
And one of those text messages, one of the last text messages that they exchanged was, as a matter of fact, the last text message that was exchanged was Brian Higgins at 12:20 a.m. on January 29th, 2022, texting Mr. O'Keefe, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks, correct?
I would have to take a look at the document. I don't have a memory of it specifically. I know I reviewed it, but I don't have a memory of the time and content.
May I approach you on?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. No worries.
Hopefully. Mine is. StreamYard is showing that I'm going out to Rumble, and when I check Rumble, it looks like it's working. I don't remember. People have been sharing a bunch of videos from this. I don't remember that one specifically. Oh, yeah. We did watch it. You talking about when Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were squaring off with each other, and Microdots was putting in their voice activation of like, now they're trying to show, he's trying to show his primal side. Yeah, I think we saw that.
Based on this extraction, I cannot definitively say that this text message was sent on January 29th because of the file source time and and the JPEG being so small. I can't testify to that, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan has kindly offered to stipulate that the "you coming here" text was sent. I would offer the following stipulation: that "you coming here" text was sent on January 29th at 12:20 a.m. from Brian Higgins to John O'Keefe's phone. Quote, "You coming here?" 3 question marks following it.
What was the time?
I'm good. 12:20 a.m. May we enter that stipulation with the court's permission?
Sure. So, jurors, you've heard that the lawyers agree that that fact is true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. So you were aware of the timeline on or about January 29th when, first of all, Karen Reed had not responded to a text message from January 23rd throughout January 28th and into January 29th. Sorry, throughout January 28th by 11:32 p.m. or so. She had just not responded. Correct?
So the text message that she sent to Brian Higgins, the last time she sent a text message was on the 23rd.
And he responded with several text messages to which she did not respond on January 23rd. Correct?
I believe she sent 2 and he said 3, I believe.
So the answer is yes. There was a text message that she sent. I'm sorry, he sent to which she did not respond. Is that right? On the 23rd.
He was the last one to send a text message on the 23rd.
That was following multiple text messages back and forth between the two of them, spanning a couple of weeks, correct?
Yes.
Then, on January 28th, 2022, Brian Higgins is at the Waterfall Bar and Grill after 11:30 p.m., correct?
He was.
Karen Reed then walks into that same Waterfall Bar and Grill, accompanied by her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, correct?
They did.
Brian Higgins then texted Karen Reed, who's standing in the room. Well, correct?
Correct.
Karen Reed ignored that text, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Karen Reed did not respond to that text.
There's no text.
Brian Higgins then, a little less than an hour later, texts John directly, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks, correct?
Correct. It's been stipulated.
And why does
That
he
is an
care?
accurate timeline of the
They're not good
events
friends.
that we just talked about, correct?
Yes, sir.
He really might have killed him.
You're also aware of a call. Your investigation revealed a call between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. on the 29th, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did your investigation reveal a call between between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m.?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Okay.
So that doesn't seem to be facts that are necessarily in the record as of yet. I'm going to try and make up some time here while they're on their little, as to whether or not they called. But yeah, so just to make the point, Higgins is feeling ghosted and then making sure that Albert shows up, and Albert dies.
Sergeant Bukenik, did you become aware during the course of your investigation, then I'll narrow the time frame, during the course of your investigation, that there were calls between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at approximately 2:22 a.m. on the 29th?
During the course of my investigation, I was not aware of that. If you have a document that I can see, I can tell you if I've ever seen it before.
Did you seek to secure Brian Albert's cell phone to determine what calls he did and didn't make on
No.
January 29th or January 28th?
No, we did not.
Would, in your experience, would a phone extraction, a cell phone extraction of Brian Albert's phone have revealed calls made and received in the time frame that we're talking about, the 28th and the 29th of January 2022?
If a phone is extracted, the records
Yes,
of
I'm glad you're here.
phone calls
I'll get to
being
them
made
shortly.
and received
Sorry
would
about that.
show
But thank
those
you. You were
records.
one of them, I know.
You did
shut
receive
down right when they
information
came
from
in.
Brian Higgins' phone, specifically the texts that he claimed he pulled off of his phone and gave to you, correct?
We received the text messages that I read today that Brian Higgins provided from his phone.
Did you seek to secure his actual phone for a forensic download or forensic mirror image to get the actual calls made and received or text messages made and received from his phone?
No, we did not.
At some point, this is just yes or no, at some point, did you become aware of a call between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. on the morning of the 29th? Just yes or no.
No.
as you sit here today, this is new information to you. Let me rephrase that. This is unknown information to you. You do not have any information about that?
Objection.
Sustain. You need a time frame, Mr. Jackson.
I realize that, Judge. That's why I'm asking it this way. As you sit here, are you aware of a phone call between Brian Albert and Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. on January 29th, 2022?
Look, you just shared that with me. I have no memory or record of seeing that it actually took place. I do not know.
Okay, so you've never heard that before. That was what I was getting to. You've never heard that before.
No.
Okay. You indicated that you did not seek to secure Brian Albert's phone to do a phone extraction at any time, correct?
We did not try to get Brian Albert's phone for any reason whatsoever.
Did you become aware during the course of your investigation that Brian Albert destroyed his phone?
I'd like to be seen. Objection.
Jurors, disregard that question. Go to sidebar, please.
Yeah, I just want to pull this up real quick here because I did miss at the end of the last stream. I was talking about the strategy as to whether or not it's sensible to put him up here when on the one hand you're showing the incompetence of the cops in that they ignored Brian Higgins, who very clearly had opportunity and motive, and yet they never verified anything beyond just trusting his story and the stories of his friends as to John O'Keefe not coming in there. On the other hand, by going through this lengthy text exchange of very flirtatious, if not sexually, arranging to hook up sexually, text exchange that went on for during the weeks leading up to January 29th, it makes Karen look terrible, and the jury likely hate her. So is it worth it? Is it worth it? So Jack Reynolds said, defense brings it out. They get to spin it first instead of prosecution spinning it with Higgins' motive. Fair enough. And TextVet says, for providing reasonable doubt, I like the strategy. Points to more believability that the angry and stood up side lover who is apparently being used as a way to hurt the boyfriend, then the girlfriend killing him. Yeah. It probably does. It probably is the right call. And Alan Jackson seems like he knows what the hell he's doing. So, I would defer. I said this is a style. This is not a legal question. This is a style question, litigation style, and bringing it up there is certainly a logical and it's a defensible tactic, if not a brilliant strategy. And saying, I don't care what you think of my client. You might think that she's Jezebel, terrible, evil woman. That doesn't mean she's a murderer. And there's all these reasons to think that she's not a murderer. Maybe embrace her Jezebel nature, that she's not likable. We have to get over the fact that she's not likable. There's nothing we can do about the fact that she's about as likable as COVID married to leprosy. But the reality is that doesn't mean she killed him, and we have all these reasons to think other people did. So I do think it's not only defensible, it's probably a strategy I would have employed as well. If I was sitting there, I would have agreed with it, probably the tactic, given what we see so far.
Of a call that was made by Brian Higgins at 1:35 a.m. while at Canton Police Department.
I am not aware of that, no.
So you did nothing in terms of investigating any phone call that Brian Higgins did or didn't make while at Canton PD on the night or the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022.
We never sought to get Brian Higgins' phone. He was not looked at as a
Suspect.
individual that we would need to get his information.
Never a person of interest.
For any reason.
Never a person of interest,
Even
despite
after
this.
you received and read all of those text messages between him and Karen Reed.
Correct.
And even after you became aware of the timeline that you just walked through, starting on January 23rd, going all the way into January 28th and into January 29th, you did nothing. to investigate that?
We had the information that we had. We did not need to get his phone.
And the information that you had came from Brian Higgins himself, not from a forensic extraction, correct?
The extraction that Brian Higgins provided was a forensics extraction of his communications with Mr. O'Keefe and Karen Reed. We had Mr. O'Keefe's phone and we had Karen Reed's phone, so we can verify and confirm that those text message communications were accurate,
That's not the
unredacted,
point.
not deleted.
The point's
and
not
were
that they're
true
accurate. It's
representation
what
of
else
what
you can
their
see on Brian's phone.
communications consist of.
Unbelievable.
And that was a representation made by whom?
The totality of it.
That was a representation made by whom?
Brian
The person
Higgins and his
made
buddies.
that representation to you, that it was fair and accurate. Who made that representation?
It wasn't a person, it was the extractions between the three devices.
Well, an extraction that you were handed on a device by someone, correct?
No, I said that we had all three devices. And as I told Mr. Higgins in our interview together, I said, Brian, we have those two devices.
Meaning
If
John
you-
and Karen's.
Correct.
Okay.
If there's anything deleted or altered in any way, we will have proof of it. So please make sure that you understand the magnitude of this situation. We're investigating a homicide. It needs to be accurate, and it was.
And you trusted that coming from Brian Higgins rather than simply getting an extraction from his phone. Correct? Yes.
I trusted him, yes, because we trust and verify. And
No,
after
you didn't
verifying,
verify.
the
didn't
extractions
verify.
were correct.
All you verified
And
was that text
following
stream, not
that
anything else.
Verification of the text messages, did that raise any suspicion in your mind about
yes.
any possible motives Brian
Exactly.
Higgins may have relative to John O'Keefe?
No. This is a no-win answer. What are you going to say? Yes? You can't say yes.
Suspicions of motives? Is that your question?
Correct.
That's the best
No,
question.
the evidence spoke for itself. The honesty, cooperation of all the witnesses and corroborating, supporting facts spoke for themselves. So I was not suspicious of his motives. The conversation was documented over text message. Spoke for itself.
Supporting documentation, including a text message at 2:20 a.m., just minutes before John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview from Brian Higgins, right? 12:20 a.m. That's one of the factors, correct?
That's one of the factors that is part of the entire investigation, yes.
One of the other factors is that John O'Keefe's body was found in the lawn at 34 Fairview, just feet from the front door, side door, and the garage door.
That is when Mr. O'Keefe was found on the left side of the lawn, yes.
And one of the factors was you originally said that it appeared that it may be an incident involving a cocktail glass to the face. Initially, please.
Based on verbal reports, initially, that was a possibility. Again, it was before we spoke to
I realize it's before a lot of other things happened, but initially, that's what I'm asking about.
yes, initially, it was a possibility.
And when you saw John O'Keefe at the hospital, that big contusion above his right eye, correct?
That is not correct.
A big egg just above his right eye?
That is not correct.
You did not see that?
His eyelids were swollen, not above his eye. And there wasn't a contusion.
Two different paramedics said that they saw what they described as an egg above his right eye. Well, let me ask you differently. Did you speak to any of the paramedics?
Yes.
Did they describe an egg above his right eye?
I'd have to see a report to actually be described as an egg above his right eye.
Did you notice a laceration at his right eye?
His right eyelid did have a tiny, tiny laceration.
Do you see a small laceration at his right nostril on his nose?
A tiny, tiny laceration. Yes.
Consistent with getting
You
hit by a
noted that
fist or
He
broken
didn't have
glass?
any broken bones or fractures other than to his skull.
I did not know that. I didn't conduct X-rays or
Consult reports?
conduct the autopsy. I'm not a medical professional.
No.
You didn't ask the doctors at the time you went and visited him and saw him in the hospital whether or not he had broken bones or fractures?
I don't believe they reported that.
And another factor that you considered was the fact that in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., there were no taillight pieces found at that location. Zero. You consider that?
At what point?
On January 29th, between say 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Consider that?
Once we learned that there was damage to the defendant's right rear taillight,
Sergeant, I'm
I could only consider at that point because I didn't know what I didn't know.
right.
We don't know. We don't know. We work with the evidence that's presented and we develop the investigation.
And the evidence that was presented at that time, Sergeant, was a leaf blower was used to search the area, the exact area that you described for this jury as being the area around the fire hydrant, the flagpole, where John's body was, and no taillight material was found at all in the first searches. You're aware of that, yes or no?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you're also aware that no taillight material was found until after that SUV was in Massachusetts State Police custody and sitting at the Sally Port in Canton. Correct?
I believe the first taillight piece was found after it was in our custody. I don't know the exact time. I'd have to see it.
Magic tail light.
When you talked to when you talked to Brian Higgins, did you ask Brian Higgins about potentially seeing John's body when he left 34 Fairview and headed over to Canton PD?
Yes, I did.
You knew that at that time, say 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, there was about 0.2 of an
This
inch
is the whole point.
dusting of snow.
This right here is the whole point.
Very light.
You jump to conclusions based on
At that point in time, there was a coating. I cannot speak to the amount of snow that was on the ground.
But Brian Higgins told you from that interview that he didn't see the body because it was hidden by a snowbank.
Objection.
Did he say that to you?
I don't have a memory of that, Your Honor.
May I put you on?
Yes.
No.
Take a look at page
I'm not familiar with
3, the highlighted portion, if you wouldn't mind. May I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that Brian Higgins said something about a snowbank at the time when he left 34 Fairview?
He stated the reason he did not pay attention to the grass is he was concerned with his snowplow on his vehicle and was not paying attention to anything over the snowbank, just with the plow in front of him as he operated the vehicle.
And of course, you knew at the time, as a detective and an investigator, you knew at the time that with a dusting of snow, there is no snow.
Green grass theory. Green grass theory.
He mentioned plowing the driveway
Give it to us.
for the Alberts when he arrived. So there might have been coating and he was just plowing it and then creating a line. I cannot speak to how much snow was actually being plowed with the dusting that was on the ground. So there might have been a small snowbank. Again, he was referencing it. He was not paying attention to anything behind the snowbank. So
He's talking
behind
about
it.
the snowbank being in the yard. Actually, he said the lawn.
Yeah, he's,
Sorry. He talked about the snowbank being in the lawn, not the driveway, correct? That's how you described it.
he said he was not paying attention anything past the snowbank being the lawn.
And did not pay too much attention to the lawn area behind the snowbank, correct?
Right, off to that area. Right.
Did that raise any suspicions in your mind that Brian Higgins may have been being less than truthful with you?
No.
Getting back to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, you were also aware that Brian Albert was at the Waterfall, correct?
At one point, yes, we learned that.
And you knew that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were friends with each other. Is that right?
We learned that as well, yes.
You've already indicated that you did not seek Brian Higgins's phone records. I may have asked you this, and if I did, I apologize. Did you seek Brian Albert's phone records or an extraction from his phone?
No, we did not.
Did you look at the entirety of the Waterfall video? Did you review the entirety of the Waterfall video when you first obtained it? Or have you looked at it since?
I have at one point or another viewed the entire video, yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, this has already been marked as evidence, but I cannot write it. It's not my notes. Exhibit 22, I'm told.
Okay.
May we exhibit that for the, or present that for the jurors?
Yes.
And I'm asked to advance this to runtime 8:30 to about 11:08, so a couple of minutes with the court's permission.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and play that. Can we pause it briefly, Mr. Wolk?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Can you please, if you can, point for the jurors whether or not you see Brian Higgins in that video?
He's the warthog.
I'll
at
use the
corner.
screen in front of me for initial indication. I believe that that is Brian Higgins right there.
Can you do me a favor, just so everybody has a perspective? Can you also point to him there? Okay.
There you go, right there. I believe that is Brian Higgins.
Okay. Do you see
The
Brian
warthog.
Albert in that video?
And Karen Reed's right next to Brian Higgins.
I
He looks
can't
like
tell you
quarter his size.
exactly. Maybe if you run it a little bit longer, or zoom it in, I could possibly tell you. But from right here, right now, I cannot.
Sergeant, why don't we play this for a couple of seconds? And if you don't mind, if you get to a point where you recognize the person that you know is Brian Albert, could you just tell me to stop and I'll pause it?
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and play it with the court's permission.
Sure.
I know I'm blocking the captions. I'll move it when they pop back up. There we
Pause
go.
it.
Stop it.
Go ahead, Sergeant.
Brian Albert is the individual right there. Right there.
Can you describe what Brian Albert and, by the way, for the record, Your Honor, the witnesses indicated the person toward the left, right under the 2-9 on the chyron on top, the 29?
Yes.
Can you describe what you see the two individuals, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, doing in this scene?
It looks like they are facing each other, possibly squaring off in a stance.
Can we go ahead and play this forward, please?
They're sumo wrestlers. That's what they look like. Freaking sumo wrestlers. Boston sumo wrestlers.
Can we pause it? Sergeant, did you see either of the two men or both of them squaring off in what you would consider to be a fighting stance?
I guess it could be considered that. I would look more like roughhousing. It's a couple of buddies messing around.
Not suggesting they were actually fighting, but a fighting stance.
Yeah, no, they were not. They were not fighting. No.
Go ahead and play it. Can you pause it? Sergeant, do you happen to see in this shot, just for orientation, do you see my client, Ms. Reed?
I'm sorry, I was paying attention to the two gentlemen.
That's fair. That's kind of an unfair question. Could you, if we play this a few more seconds, could you look around, scan around, and tell me if you see someone that you believe is my client?
Yes, I will try.
Let's go ahead and play. Go ahead and pause it. Do you see anybody that looks like Ms. Reed?
Yes, I believe she's in top left. Top right corner of the frame, talking to Mr. O'Keefe and I believe two other gentlemen.
Long hair?
On your client?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play this up to 11:08, please.
Literally having her back to Officer Brian Hippo. Higgins.
Is that up to 11:08? Okay, thank you. We can take that one down briefly. This is, if we have the lights, thank you. Sergeant, this is at the Waterfall just before midnight on January 29th, 2022, correct? What you just saw.
That footage is from the Waterfall just before midnight on 28th.
I'm sorry, my mistake. On the January 28th, 2022.
Correct.
Going into midnight, January 29th, 2022.
Yes, sir.
All right. This would be just minutes before everyone headed out of the Waterfall and went back towards Fairview, correct?
Not everyone. The band didn't go to the Fairview.
Well, obviously, I'm not talking about the band or the bartenders. I'm
Right.
talking about Brian Albert,
You're
Brian
idiots.
Higgins, Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, those folks. Correct?
It's before some of those individuals left the bar and headed to 34 Fairview.
If we could push to runtime 16:35, 17:22, while you're queuing that up, did you see, after I asked you the initial time about the stance that the two men were taking, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, did you see them continue to take what could be reasonably described as a fighting stance toward each other, even in jest?
They were squaring off and roughhousing, yeah.
Okay, what does squaring off mean?
Facing an opponent in like wrestling or a martial art, I guess.
Hands up?
Yes, squaring off, yeah.
You are former military
Yes,
and current law enforcement.
yes.
Is hand-to-hand fighting taught in both military and paramilitary organizations like law enforcement?
I had hand-to-hand combat training in the Marine Corps. I had defensive tactics in law enforcement capacity in the Marine Corps, federal, local, and state academies.
Are you aware that Brian Albert is former military?
Objection.
Okay.
Objection's
With this
relevance.
perspective, could we just go ahead and play that the 30 or 45 seconds one more time?
This just jumped
And
on me.
please
during
focus
this.
on Mr. O'Keefe.
It did. I don't know why it jumped. I'm not allowing for that jump. This is too good to miss. So I want to sort of go back to where we were.
Are former military
Yes,
and current law enforcement.
yes.
Is hand-to-hand fighting taught in both military and paramilitary organizations like law enforcement?
I had hand-to-hand combat training in the Marine Corps. I had defensive tactics in law enforcement capacity in the Marine Corps, federal, local, and state academies.
Are you aware that Brian Albert is former military?
Objection. Sustained.
I'll allow it.
Oh,
I am aware that Brian Albert is former military.
And Brian Albert was also a Boston police officer.
I am aware of that as well, yes.
Are you aware that Brian Higgins was former military and a combat veteran?
Now I am, yes.
And are you aware that Brian Higgins, at the time this was taken, this video was taken, was also a federal law enforcement agent?
I was aware, yes, I was,
Okay.
yeah.
If we can go ahead and run at 16:35 to 17:22 with the court's permission.
Okay.
If you can pause it. Can you describe for the jurors what you see Brian Albert and Brian Higgins doing in this footage?
Based on my understanding, it looks like he's giving him the Heimlich maneuver or
As if
abdominal thrust, I guess. I don't know what he's doing.
Brian Albert's got his hands around Brian Higgins, correct?
That's what it looks like from here. I have no idea what he's doing.
Could it be described as wrestling or grappling?
I guess, yeah.
Let's go ahead and play it.
sorry. Just want to move this over. Brokeback man. That's fine. I think he is Brokeback Mountain.
Thank you. If we can take that down. During the course of reviewing this video, or the entirety of the video, not just the clips that you just reviewed, did you see where John O'Keefe was, generally speaking, relative to Brian Higgins and Brian Albert?
Throughout the entire time?
He wasn't standing still, I understand that, but generally, was he standing with them, or was he closer to the bar in the back of the video?
I believe after Mr. O'Keefe arrived and embraced a few people with hugs, I guess if I had to estimate, most of the time he was on the other side of the table, which would be closest to the bar area.
And after you saw Mr. O'Keefe walk in and greet everybody with salutations, did you ever see him interacting with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert throughout the evening again? On this video?
On this video, I did not know.
I'd like to play runtime, one more clip, Your Honor. Runtime 1915 to 1957, about 45 or 50 seconds.
They keep making me jump around. I'm jumping around. I gotta move this over.
Pause it. Just to orient the jurors, can you see any individuals that you earlier described, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, any of those individuals in this clip as yet? Or do we need to play it a little further?
I would need you to play it a little bit further, please.
Is it possible, with the court's permission, to zoom in on the upper portion of the video?
Okay.
You could center that just a little bit toward the right. Other way. There we go. Thank you. And if we could go ahead and play that from 1915 to about 1957. Pause it. Do you recognize the three people center screen now?
I really can't make it out. I would have to be assuming,
I don't want you to assume.
guessing. I can't make it out
Let's
to
play,
identify each individual.
let's play it forward if we can. One more time.
I can't make it out either.
At this point, go ahead and pause it. At this point, can you make out any individuals?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, I can say that that looks like Brian Higgins in the middle of the three gentlemen.
What is he wearing?
It looks like a hooded sweatshirt.
Okay. And the person to his, sorry, let's do it from your perspective or the juror's perspective. The person to the left of Brian Higgins.
I believe that's Brian Albert.
And the person to the right of Brian Higgins.
To the right from my perspective.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I believe that's Chris Albert, but I'm not positive. I'm
Okay,
not
let's go ahead and
positive.
play it. Stop. Did you see Brian Higgins just do something?
I was not paying attention to his gesture. We have to replay that, please.
Does it appear he's looking a particular direction?
He is looking in a particular direction based on that frame, yes.
Is that toward the bar area?
It's in that direction. I don't know exactly where he's looking, whether he's looking at the bar, to the right of the bar. I can't tell from this.
Okay, okay. And John O'Keefe, you indicated earlier that John O'Keefe, that's where you saw him most of the video, toward the bar area, to the right of the bar.
If you scroll to push the screen to the right, I can tell you where Mr. O'Keefe is.
With the court's permission.
Yes.
Do you see Mr. O'Keefe in that group of people?
I cannot make him out. Could you play the video? Maybe he is behind an individual.
Let's go back to, if with the court's permission, I'd like to go back to the full video, and let's play it from here.
He's gonna gesture. Yeah, I think he killed him. I do. I'm thinking
Awesome.
Brian Higgins murderer
Could you
is the
see
best
what
theory we have
was
yet.
happening with Brian Higgins?
He was gesturing to someone.
Do you know who-
I was trying to see Mr. O'Keefe. We were talking about Mr. O'Keefe, so
Understood.
I apologize.
Understood. With the court's permission, could I play the video one more time with it focused on the other side of the bar?
Okay.
Thank you. Last time.
Can you tell me who to focus on, please,
Yes.
so I'm not looking for the wrong person?
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Pause it.
The two-tone
You see John
sweatshirt.
O'Keefe there.
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you point to where he is for the jurors, please, on both televisions?
Mr. O'Keefe is right there wearing the sweatshirt, multi-tone gray sweatshirt with the hood on it and his hat.
And
And
on the
this
other TV?
right
Okay.
there. He's appears to be at the bar paying the bill.
Okay. With this perspective, could we just go ahead and play that, the 30 or 45 seconds one more time? And then please focus on Mr. O'Keefe. Pause it. Do you see where Mr. O'Keefe is looking at this point?
Yes.
Where is he looking? What direction?
Well, from this vantage point, it looks like he's looking to the left on the screen at the individual he's appears to be conversing with.
Okay, go ahead and play it. Pause it.
Little
What
head
about
nod
now?
there.
Same individual.
Okay.
He's still engaged in conversation.
No, he's not. He's nodding at
Pause
Brian
What
at
about
Brian
now?
Higgins.
He's taking a sip of beer
Right. Which direction is he looking?
in the same direction.
Okay. Go ahead and play it. And go ahead and pause it. We could go back out to the full screen. At this point, does it appear in the video that Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Chris Albert have all left the bar?
There's someone standing across the table from Mr. O'Keefe to his rear. I don't know who that
Idiot.
is, so I can't
Oh,
testify
stop
to
it.
that.
Just
The
stop
others
it.
have
You're the
left.
only person in the
Given
room who
this
doesn't know.
perspective, now that we've seen both of them zoomed, do you have an opinion as to whether or not it appeared that Mr. Higgins was gesturing toward John O'Keefe just before he left the bar?
Given this perspective, he might have been. I don't know who he was gesturing at.
Okay. We can have the lights up. Take that down.
Pathetic. Pathetic.
I wanna
Trying to
change
gaslight
gears
the jury.
For a second. Let me ask one more series of questions, if I could, Sergeant. What we've just seen was literally Brian Albert, Brian Higgins leaving Waterfall to go to a different location. What was the location they were headed to? Based on your investigation.
They were heading to 34 Ferry Road.
And shortly thereafter, who else followed to go over to 34 Fairview?
I'm sorry, you said Chris Albert?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. Okay.
Nope.
Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, they went to 34 Fairview, and then Mr. O'Keefe also traveled there.
Thank you. I want to shift gears, if I could, to another video. Did you review certain ring videos specifically relative to One Meadows the outdoor ring video servicing the carport area?
Yes, I have reviewed those videos.
If we could, Your Honor, just a moment. This has previously been marked as 12A. If we could, with the court's permission, zoom in on the Chevy Traverse in the upper left-hand, the vehicle in the upper left-hand corner of the video.
Okay.
Pause it.
No, that's just going to
Let's
hit
go ahead
him.
and zoom in on the upper left-hand corner. Okay, go ahead and play.
That's where she's going to bang into him. See the wheel
Pause.
move?
Did you see anything happen with the the left rear tire of the other car in the driveway?
Which car you talking
Oh
about?
my God.
The
Oh my
highlighted
God.
portion, the parked car, which is the left rear tire that's zoomed in on.
Selectively stupid.
I wasn't paying attention to the tire. Can you play it again, please?
With the court's permission,
Okay.
let's try that one more time. Pause it. Okay, you can take that down. Did you see anything happen with that left rear tire of the Chevy Traverse?
Based on that video, it appears there might have been movement there.
Last year, and you've seen this video several times, correct?
I have.
You saw it during the course of your investigation, not just in the course of proceedings, correct?
Right.
Last year, you indicated that you observed the vehicle, Miss Reed's vehicle, come near Mr. O'Keefe's car. Which one in that video was Mr. O'Keefe's car?
The Chevy Traverse.
And that would be the car that was parked and static, not moving, correct?
Correct.
Having seen this, do you still believe that the SUV came near the Chevy Traverse, or do you believe it struck the Chevy Traverse?
With the clarity of that video, there is a lot of movement in the shot. Not with great certainty. It appeared that there was movement of the tire, but I cannot say with 100% certainty that there was movement.
It's certainly beyond a reasonable doubt.
That tire literally shifted and wiggled upon some sort of impact.
I'm just going to say this. There's a lot less reasonable doubt that those two cars, that she struck John O'Keefe's car. A lot less reasonable doubt than there is that she struck John O'Keefe. A lot less. A lot less. Ridiculous. He's showing how ridiculously biased he was in this investigation right here. That you can't admit that those cars hit each other. You're showing you're ridiculously biased against Karen.
Based on the video, there appeared to have been movement.
Okay. You had this video for the first 3 years of your investigation. You had this video very early on, correct?
That's correct.
And for the first several years of your investigation, did you either deny, well, let me ask it this way. Was it your assessment that the SUV did not contact that Chevy Traverse?
I'm running
My
out of time.
assessment
Hour
with
left.
the totality of it all was that based on the video, there was no damage that occurred to either vehicle at that point in time.
That wasn't my question, Sergeant. My question was
No one asked you
your
that.
assessment that there was no contact between the two vehicles? Is that what you assessed during the course of your investigation?
I did not assess that there was no contact, no.
Even as recently as last year, you testified in another proceeding that the SUV came close to the Chevy Traverse, correct?
Yes, I said there's a lot of movement in that shot. It's difficult to tell if there was more for me to observe and push that certainty level up, I would have testified differently.
As you've seen the video enhanced,
So pathetic.
zoomed in on, do you wish to amend that testimony from last year?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Sure. Given what you've just seen, what is your testimony now about whether or not that SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
There is movement of the tire. There is
Okay. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Thank you. It's not that hard. There's movement of the tire. I'll tell you something else. It's a lot more likely. Just laws of physics, that type of thing, that's much more likely to break your tail light than hitting a guy in a way that he has no bruises. He has no bruises at all. Much more likely.
Someone standing there and pushing the car. I'm asking you, based on what you just saw in this video, do you believe that the SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
Logically speaking, the two vehicles had to have come into contact for the tire to move.
They have to have collided.
Oh,
At a slow
yes.
speed, yes.
It doesn't matter slow speed. You go very
which
slow and
area?
back into it.
Of the SUV collided with the Chevy Traverse. The front, the rear,
It appears from the video it's the right rear area
The same area
of
that
the
the tail light
Lexus
broke.
SUV that comes into contact with the Traverse.
What time was this video taken?
I believe that is at 5:07 a.m., if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Sergeant. I want to change gears again, if I could, and ask you about a dog. You're aware that the Alberts, Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, had a dog that they named Chloe on on January 28th, 29th of 2022, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow the question. Were you aware of that?
At what point in time, sir?
January 28th, 29th, that area.
Was I aware that they owned a dog on January 28th or 29th?
No. Are you aware now that on January 28th or 29th, they owned a dog? There was a dog in the house.
Now I am aware, yes.
Okay. During the course of your investigation, you learned that, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your investigation, did you also become aware that the Alberts got rid of their family dog?
Objection.
I'm going to see you at sidebar on this, please.
Sure.
Let's talk about Chloe. Time to talk about Chloe. Let's see if we can make up some ground. We'll make up some ground. Poor Chloe. Poor Chloe. Well, she was probably a bitch anyway. I like dogs, but there's a lot of nasty rumors about Chloe. A lot of nasty rumors about Chloe. Well, we're making up a lot of ground. We might catch up. I think we caught up. Oh no, we didn't. Dang it! I thought we caught up. Damn it!
No longer own the dog.
Okay.
Given it up for adoption, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a pet owner.
All right, here we go. It's gonna get better. Oh my god! All right, so we're like a minute or two behind.
I think I forgot where I left off. May I, Your Honor? Thank you. Sergeant, At some point during the course of your investigation, did you learn that the Albert family had gotten rid of the dog named Chloe?
We learned that they no longer cared for the dog. I don't know if get rid of is accurate.
Well, they don't have it anymore, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what would you call it?
Giving it up for adoption, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a pet owner.
Or what if they didn't give it up for
Taken
adoption?
to the farm.
I'm sorry.
What if they didn't give it up for adoption?
Rehomed, I guess.
Okay.
So
it's no
in the
longer
glue
with it, right?
factory.
Correct. They no longer own the dog.
Okay, so they got rid of it. It's like you get rid of a car, right? Right?
You can get rid of a car, yeah.
Okay. And you can get rid of a dog. That's all I'm asking.
Yes, you can get rid of a dog, yes.
Okay. At some point during the course of your investigation, did you find out that the Albert family got rid of Chloe?
We learned that they no longer owned Chloe, yes.
Okay. When did you learn that?
I cannot tell you exactly. I can tell you when
So the
we
whole
looked
side,
into it officially.
by the way,
When did you?
just to let you know, the whole sidebar there, I'm gleaning based on how the questioning has shifted a little bit here. The whole sidebar was about, you don't know that they killed the dog. You know they got rid of it. So you can't say anything about killing the dog, which he wants to say kill because the idea is get rid of the evidence as opposed to just send them somewhere else. But since no one knows that they killed it, or you don't have evidence, I guess sufficient evidence that it was killed, or at least it's been presented in this trial, that's why he's saying get rid of it instead of kill it.
Look into it officially.
I traveled to the dog's home and assisted with identifying the dog and investigating that animal.
Okay. What documentation did you use to identify that animal?
It was veterinary records.
I want to stop you there. Veterinary records from whom? From the Albert family? When they,
I did not get any veterinary records from the Albert family.
the veterinary records that you did get were veterinary records that had been utilized with the Albert name? Where were these veterinary records?
The veterinary records were with the vet that's caring for the dog and also owns the dog now.
Okay.
And those records also had been dated prior to when the dog was owned by the Alberts.
Okay. So other than some veterinary records that, and by the way, the dog's not even named Chloe, correct?
The new owners renamed the dog, yes.
Cora?
That's correct.
Oh, I
The new
guess he
owners
wasn't
did
killed.
not get
She
that
wasn't
dog from Brian and Nicole Albert, did they?
No, they did not.
They got it from a separate person. Is that right?
That is correct.
Separate person named Riley?
That's her last name, yes.
And did this person Riley have any records showing purchase of Chloe or adoption of Chloe from the Alberts?
No.
You did write a report about the newest owner of this animal, this dog, correct?
I documented my trip to the location and the steps I took and services I provided in the investigation.
And in that report, you omitted the name of the new owner?
I'm not sure.
Did you omit the location of where you actually came in contact with this animal?
You're going to have to show me my report. I don't remember.
Yes.
There's a friend of mine in synagogue who's convinced Karen Reed killed. He keeps yelling at me every time he sees me. Stop falling for Alan Jackson's tricks. I'm getting sick of watching you fall for tricks. I'm going to go in synagogue tonight. I'm going to be like, Brian Higgins killed John O'Keefe. He's going to get so mad. This was a murder. This was a murder, what we saw here today. Wow.
Okay, I apologize about that.
No problem.
I'm the one slowing us down just a little bit. May I approach?
Yes.
Did this, reviewing your report, refresh your recollection as to whether or not the new owner's identifying information is in
Correct.
this report?
It did.
And is that information in the report?
No, it is not.
You've got, there are some veterinary records that you supplied along with your report, correct?
Yes.
That you gathered?
I'm sorry, what was
That
it?
you gathered along while you were doing this?
Yes, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
If you'll take a look at those 4 documents.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also. It looks to me, I don't see any white at all. I raised this when I saw this the
Do
other
those
day.
appear to be the veterinary records that you gathered related to this animal?
Yeah, I think he thinks that's what I think he's going. It sounds like he's walking down a road where he's basically getting towards, they said they sold a dog, but they didn't. They gave a different dog and they
Yes, it
killed
does.
Chloe.
Do any of those records, any of the veterinary records, the 4 pages that you're holding,
That's why he's going through
even
veterinary
include the name
records.
Cora or the name of the new owner?
I don't know what ghosted means. That's after my time.
I browsed through it, and no, it does not appear that Cora or the new owner are included in any of these 4 pages.
May I approach?
Yes.
You don't have any transfer records for Chloe, correct?
All the records that are provided by the owner.
I'm going to go through a series of questions, Sergeant. If you can answer it yes or no, that might make it go a little faster. You don't have any transfer records, correct?
I would know what it looks like. That's why it's even quicker me telling you that that's all the records that I have.
Okay. I want an answer to my question. You
Okay.
don't have any transfer records.
I don't know what a transfer record would look like, so
the
I
answer
can't.
is no.
I don't know.
Okay. You don't have any rehoming records.
I don't know.
You don't have any purchase records.
I don't know.
The only records you do have are those 4 pages of veterinary records that don't have the name Cora and don't have the new owner's name. correct?
That's correct.
You would agree, shifting gears for a second, that timely report writing obviously is an important aspect of any investigation, correct?
It is important, but we can only write reports as feasibly and possibly we're capable of doing. Sometimes investigations are rapid, so you can't write a report. You take notes, and some time goes by before you actually document the information on an official report. The information's there, it's gathered, it's maintained by the investigator, it's shared, it's acted on at times, but the official reports might take some time to write.
So obviously, if you're, like you said, things are fast moving in an investigation. It might be that you interview a witness on a Tuesday, you're super busy on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It might be Friday before you can even sit down and draft a report about that interview that you did on Tuesday, correct?
Different circumstances dictate differently.
That would be completely normal.
Yes, it is.
But most of the time, it's best practices, and you're taught, and you teach your subordinates that it's best practices to reduce to writing and memorialize a report as close in time to the event in question that's being memorialized as you can, right? Perfectly.
In the perfect world, we'd write it as it's happening.
You mean like video,
Are you
like
aware
body cam?
that
You mean like that?
more than
Body
20
cam?
official police reports in this case were not recorded for more than 100 days from the time that the event in question was done, was being memorialized?
I did not know the exact date and delay.
Are you aware that there are 11 reports that are more than 300 days from the time of the event that was being memorialized?
I was not aware, no.
Are you aware that there are 3 reports that are more than 400 days from the time of the event that was being memorialized?
I am not aware, no.
Are you aware that there are 4 reports that are more than 500 days from the time of the event that's being memorialized?
This is a great. I want to just share with you.
Are you aware that
This is like a great tactic that Jackson is employing here. There's so much to admire about his litigation skills. Just building, like when you think, oh my God, 100 days. Oh my God, 300 days. Oh my God, 400 days. There's 500 days. It's like how many days are we even from the date of the murder already? It's a way of just building the jury's just shock at just like the ridiculous way that the police office is being run there. It's a really effective way, and it's subtle in the sense that, if you don't, this is displaying experience and understanding how to build. He's very talented.
longest delay of any report in this investigation was 581 days?
I am not aware of that, no.
You became aware early on in your investigation of 2 individuals named Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson, correct?
They are witnesses, yes.
Both Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson, you learned, were outside 34 Fairview in the early morning hours of January 29th, correct?
We did learn within our investigation at some point, yes.
And you learned, Sergeant, very early on in that investigation because you interviewed Ryan Nagel in February of 2022. It's just days after the event, correct?
I'm not sure of the exact date.
Obviously, as you just said, you became aware that Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson were witnesses in your homicide investigation, important witnesses, you'd agree, correct?
They were witnesses.
You learned that they arrived at the house at 34 Fairview sometime after Karen Reed and John O'Keefe arrived and pulled up behind their parked SUV, correct?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. You learned that where they fit into the investigative puzzle is that they pulled up behind Karen Reed's SUV when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview. They pulled up sometime after that and pulled up right behind them, correct?
That's not correct.
What is not correct about that?
They arrived simultaneously. Karen Reed took a right onto Fairview. They yielded to them and followed towards 34 Fairview, stopping at the driveway as Karen Reed proceeded further up.
Did you listen to the testimony in this case up to this point?
No.
There's a sequestration order, correct? Correct?
Yes, yes.
Which means you can't listen to the testimony of eyewitnesses who are testifying in front of these jurors.
Correct. Yes.
You don't know how witnesses have testified from that witness box in front of these jurors, correct?
I have no idea.
Okay. So your information is that they pulled up simultaneously, correct?
Is that what you just testified?
That's my memory from what the interview produced.
What they told us.
You certainly knew that there were eyewitnesses to the condition and the location of Miss Reed's SUV, correct?
Yes, yes, from their interviews, yes.
And you also are aware that they would have been in a position to see the occupants of Miss Reed's SUV as they were behind it and then pulled around it, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you become aware that they were in a position behind the SUV and as they pull around it, they could still see the SUV?
Objection.
Sustained.
You knew what potential role they played in your investigation as eyewitnesses, correct? Generally?
When we interviewed them, when we learned of their existence, when we interviewed them, we collected information based on their recollection.
Okay. My question was, you're aware that they had a certain perspective as it relates to the SUV that night, early morning hours, right?
Based on their interviews, they had a perspective with the brake light being on constantly.
I'm not asking you what they said. I'm asking you if during the course of your investigation, you learned that Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson had a perspective. They were eyewitnesses to certain things. As
Yes.
relative to the SUV, correct?
Yes.
You instructed your subordinate, Michael Proctor, to interview those witnesses in August of 2022, correct?
I'm not sure when they were interviewed. I don't have a memory of instructing him to go interview them.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Had with Michael Proctor, specifically. That refreshes your recollection as to communications you had with Michael Proctor specifically. Thank you, Sergeant. Does that refresh your recollection as to a conversation, or I'm sorry, a communication that you had with Michael Proctor?
Unfortunately, it does not. I will take the document at face value. I do not have a memory of having these communications, but I will take the document if it's authentic and it is true and accurate that it took place. But I do not have a memory of sending these text messages.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Also, my name's misspelled in there. Is that from the extraction, or where is that from?
Couldn't tell you. Wasn't me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't take credit for that. Thanks. If your memory is not refreshed about that particular communication, do you remember in general communicating with Michael Proctor about interviewing Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Would that have been something that you would have found important relatively early on in the investigation? These are eyewitnesses. Let's get them interviewed.
Yes, it is. It is important to interview anyone that's an eyewitness. Sometimes it takes longer because. Are you listening? I'm sorry.
Thanks.
You asked the question. I just wanted to answer.
I know the answers to my own questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So while we want to interview every eyewitness, sometimes an important fact is already detailed and witnessed by another witness. So in this situation, we had already interviewed one of the occupants, the one that was driving, the one that had the observed the events taking place. And we asked him if we were going to talk to the other two, would they have the same recollection, observations? Did they leave the vehicle to go in the house at all? Anything like that, anything different? So that's...
Okay, so it would be important, obviously, to interview witnesses in a timely manner.
In some instances, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do you remember when Trooper Proctor actually interviewed Ricky D'Antonio and, I'm sorry, when Michael Proctor interviewed Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson?
I do not have a memory of that, no. I'm sure a report would indicate when.
I missed this. HPG KMC says, "Dear leader, greetings from 17,000 feet above Texas. Thank you for the amazing in-flight entertainment. You're very welcome.
Take a look
Thank
at
you
that.
for joining, brother."
I thought that was a report from
This day
somebody
flight.
else. It's a report from you, actually. Tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to when Ricky D'Antonio was actually interviewed.
Yes, this report, authored by me, was states that on Saturday, September 2nd, he was interviewed.
What year?
2023.
So that would have been a year and a half later, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that's a timely report, or rather a timely interview for an eyewitness, the gravity of which is described in your report?
We again, perfect ideal world scenario, it would be quicker.
So that would be, no excuses, I'm not going to bars, but that would be untimely, correct? Year and a half later.
We do the best we can.
You indicated that your memory was that the cars arrived simultaneously. That's a interview with Ricky D'Antonio. You see the highlighted portion?
I see it.
Ricky D'Antonio actually told you that the car was
Objection.
parked, correct?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach the
Yes, can I see that, please?
All right. Maybe we catch up. We're live. All right, finally caught up. Yeah, no, Clicky, is someone in the YouTube chat who's saying that he hasn't actually lied about anything. I would submit that I pointed out the flirty text messages and saying that they're not flirty. That's an opinion. They're talking about hooking up. It's kind of an unreasonable opinion, which I would say is lying. I also would say, but that's not an outright lie. I do think he outright lied about Proctor, not remembering they gave the evidence to Proctor, and that or claiming not to recognize Proctor's handwriting when it looks like Proctor's handwriting in all other places. It's like, to me, this is flat out lying. Oh my God. And I also think that to say that there's nothing suspicious about Brian Higgins, I think that's at the very least, that's a bad faith. It's bad faith to say there's nothing suspicious about the fact that he's in the house where O'Keefe is dying on the lawn and was in a fight and was trying to hook up with his girlfriend. That's not suspicious. I think it's very bad faith. So and I like the counterpoints. He's saying it's his third language. Have you seen any signs during his testimony that he struggles with English? I'm not sure if you're being.
Especially as this moves along, I think it becomes more important for me to talk to the lawyers about scheduling to give you some idea on how we're doing. I can tell you that everybody's in agreement that we are right on schedule. So we're not behind schedule. Optimistic.
Are we done?
We're still a little bit ahead, but we are on schedule for many purposes. Monday, I'm going to ask you all to
We're done.
meet at 10. So we'll start at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on Monday.
We'll go a full day. We'll leave every day next week. We'll use a full day. So we'll
see if there's any last bits here.
Same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Be very careful with your social media use, and we'll see you Monday at 10.
Goodbye.
Well, there you go. I assume that we're done here and that we're not going to hear from the lawyers. But I'll give another minute or two because they might be waiting for the jury to clear out before they talk. So I'll give another minute or two here while I start to wrap up here as to what we got during the afternoon session. I got 6 different areas that Alan Jackson attacked. First one I have is that.
All right, so Monday we'll start with the jury at 10. If you need me before 10, please let people know so that we can deal with anything we can beforehand. I should be here. I'll be here before 10. So, all right, we'll see you on
Thank you,
Monday.
Ron.
Thank you.
No, I did not see this. There's a delay with Diddy. Is Diddy trial not starting? Am I going to be going on Monday? Am I still going to be here on Monday? Is that what you're telling me? If there's still no jury, I plan on being here. If there is no jury in the Diddy trial, I want to go in there for opening statements. I don't want to miss opening statements, but let me see if I'm going to do a quick check before I go. I will give a quick check as to whether or not I'll be here on whether it looks like I'm going to be here on Monday. All right. So this is what we have, because there will be another day. I will definitely come back for this. This is the most this is the most engaging type of content you can have in a court trial when a guy is being skewered on cross. Okay, so what do we have this afternoon? And after I do a quick roundup of what we had this afternoon, I'm going to do a search while I'm sitting here with you to see if there's updates as to the Diddy jury selection and whether I'll be here on Monday or not. So, and if any of you have links that you can share with me or something like that to that effect, is that Diddy jury has or has not or has been selected or will not, I'd appreciate that. I'll check on X and see if I see anything there. So the six areas I noted from Alan Jackson's cross in the afternoon was you never looked at Higgins as a suspect, despite the fact that you just saw all those text messages from him and how flirty he was, and then he drove that home even further by showing in the waterfall that Higgins was texting saying, "Are you coming? Are you coming?" Like it was a big deal to Brian Higgins that John O'Keefe was going to come there. And given the nature of what we see, at least can potentially glean from the text messages, it seems as if he's friendly with John O'Keefe, but not friends. Meaning it's not like, oh, he's my good bud, I want him here. Karen needs to continually reassure him, oh, no, he likes you. He keeps saying you're a good guy. So they're sort of friendly and running in the same circles. But not like, it's like, this is my friend. I want him to come to the party. So why the hell is Brian Higgins asking, are you coming? 3 question marks. Why would he be doing that? It should make you at least raise the question, like, what's the story there? And he even showed him in the waterfall how it certainly appears as if Higgins is motioning toward John O'Keefe when they're heading on out, and John O'Keefe sort of nods before getting out of there. So there seems to be, after being spurned by Karen all night, that he's texting her, she's not responding. He's complaining that he's being ghosted. Then he's like, "Hey, John, you coming?" And next thing you know, and then he's like, "We're on our way out. Let's go." And then, "Brian, are you coming?" It doesn't look good for Brian Higgins. That doesn't mean he did it, but I mean, he certainly seems to have both motive and opportunity to intentionally harm John O'Keefe. Then we have then he showed video of Karen's car hitting John O'Keefe's car at 5 o'clock in the morning after John O'Keefe went missing. That she's backing up and her right in her back tail light, the area that eventually now is not there anymore, that she definitely struck O'Keefe's parked car. And he actually got Bukenik on the stand to admit that a year ago he didn't see it that way, but now when he's looking at it, he can see that the wheel moved. Now, with respect to that, we should sort of consider the fact that if he never really identified John's car moving, and he thought it was a near miss and didn't notice the wheel thing moving, that would be a reason for him to have at that time thought, well, why is her taillight broken when it wasn't broken? All these witnesses are saying it wasn't broken at midnight. Why is it broken the next day? And supposedly these witnesses are saying she's showing us her broken taillight. So that would lead us to believe that she backed up into him. So, together with the whole I hit him, as opposed to everyone maybe not realizing that that's likely where she broke her taillight. Chloe, and then the next one I had was, so he finally admitted it, which was that he's like, yeah, I see that taillight moved, and it looks like her car struck his car by the area of her taillight. Then you have, and that was at 5 o'clock in the morning, several hours after she dropped off John O'Keefe and before they found the body. Then he went into the area of Chloe, and that's the name of Brian Albert's dog, which they got rid of the day after John O'Keefe dies. So, and he went through veterinary records to say they're claiming that they gave her away but the indications are that it's a different dog that they tried to parse off as if they got away with, that they gave away Chloe, but to imply that Chloe's actually been killed. If they killed that dog, I'll tell you right now, if you can convince me they killed that dog and then tried hiding the fact that they killed the dog, even just killing the dog, but look, let's face it, getting rid of the dog in shortly after O'Keefe's death, when he has those marks, which are certainly seem possibly consistent with bite marks, and they have this reputedly aggressive dog, that does seem to raise questions. The timing of it raises a lot of questions. If in fact they killed the dog, that is far worse. And if they killed the dog and pretended that they sold it, that to me, this is starting to show, mens rea of trying to cover a crime. I would charge them with a crime if we saw that they killed the dog and then tried to, and then fake. At that point, I would be charging them with accessory after the fact of a murder, because that's, if in fact that's what happened, they should be. So many things are murky that the same way we have reasonable doubt about Karen, you can have reasonable doubt. Any of these stories are all nice theories. They're nice theories that he went to the house, nice theories that this happened or that happened. You know, that Brian Higgins is the one who got into a slug fight with him, hit him, and he fell backwards, banged his head, and then they leave him to die on the lawn. These are all nice theories, but they're all theories that you can poke holes in and say, but what about this? What about that? When if in fact they got rid of their dog the day after O'Keefe dies and killed her, and then try parsing off as if to the public, as if they sold her, and we can show that sale was crap, and to my mind, they should be charged with accessory after the fact of murder, because there's definitely doing something. They're definitely involved in covering up his John O'Keefe's death. But I don't know that we have that level of evidence that it's a different dog today than what Chloe was. The fifth point I had was that he started talking about how long it took them to make these reports, and doing it in an excellent fashion where he's like 100 days. Some reports, he's like, would you admit that it's good to get down and make a report as soon after an incident as possible? And he said, well, ideally, it would be best to have it happen while it's happening. He goes, and some of your reports are 100 days old. And you have 4 reports that are 300 days old, and another 4 reports that are 400 days old. You have 3 more reports that are 500 days old, and the oldest one is 581 days old. Basically showing the complete, and there's so much possibility for things to go wrong from the time something happens until you report it, that it's almost like by the time it's 100 days old or more, it's like you're just making stuff up at this point. You're guessing as to what happened. Who the hell remembers what happened 100 days ago that you can remember with clarity that you're going to take down a report on it? That's not the way police are supposed to be operating. And it raises all sorts of questions as to the nature, as to what can we trust in their reports. These are all excellent ways of trying to sow further seeds that even if you think Karen Reed did it, you have to have reasonable doubt. And the final point he brought up was with respect to the car that pulled up right behind Karen and John O'Keefe. We heard testimony earlier in the trial from 2 individuals. I think only 2, not 3, but there were 3 in the car. There was Ryan Nagel, Heather Maxim, and apparently a third person named Ricky D'Antano. We heard from the first 2, but not the third one, as far as what I recall so far in this trial. They testified that John O'Keefe pulled in and turned right, and they pulled in right behind, and basically saying that they sat in the car waiting for Ryan's sister, trying to pick her up. She came out to the car, and then she said, no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to go home with Jen McCabe, and inviting them to come in. And they're like, no. And then they left. And the whole time they're sitting behind Karen Reed and John O'Keefe while the happy couple are having a conversation in Karen's car. And they testified that they don't see any broken taillight. And the idea behind this is that the state wants us to believe is, you see, it wasn't broken then, but it's broken the next morning. How'd that happen? Well, if you want to know how it happened, I guess now it's possible, given the video we've seen today, that it happened at 5 o'clock in the morning, not at a time when she's striking John O'Keefe. So, yeah. So we got into that, and we sort of got lost in the weeds in the middle of the testimony where he was asking them about the significance of their testimony, and all that Bukenik gave us on that was that they helped establish the existence of of a seemingly unaffected taillight at 12:30 in the morning when they were sitting behind them, and that they verified that Karen was sitting in her car. She turned the dome light on at some point, or maybe John O'Keefe was getting out of the car at that point as they were pulling past, and the dome light was on because car door open. Whatever, they seem not to see John O'Keefe. Anyway, bottom line, that's what we got. We're still in the middle of cross. It will pick up on Monday. Before I go, and I'm going to check in and see some of these checks. So, yeah, I do plan on covering the Diddy trial as soon as it starts. I am going to check out, after I go through these chats, I'm going to check out and see whether or not we have word that there is a final selection of the jury in the Diddy trial. I reside in the New York region, and that's why I'm going to be traveling there every day. I plan on dropping videos on the Diddy trial because I think I'm the only person who's actually going to give an untainted perspective as to how good or bad each side is doing, the attorneys, how fair the judge seems to be, if there's slant. I do expect that both sets of teams in this trial are, I've seen them practice. I've seen Maureen Comey for the state, who's leading. She's the one who got the convictions against Ghislaine Maxwell, and I know that she and her team are top shelf attorneys, top shelf prosecutors, as far as being fair and reasonable. But at the same time, they seem to be they displayed, at least in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, a vested interest in trying to protect anyone whose name might be besmirched by who's adjacent to the trial. That's certainly what we saw in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, but still very talented and effective attorneys. Some of the most effective litigating I've ever seen. And similarly, at least one of the counsel for P. Diddy, and I'm sure they're all top tier because he obviously has the dough to spend on his attorneys. One of them is Brian Steele, who has brass balls and stood up to Judge Glanville in the Young Thug case down in Georgia, and basically pretty much ended Glanville's career and was willing to go to jail when he said, I see that you did with the prosecutors was wrong. And Glanville got mad at him and saying, where'd you hear all that information? He stood up to him and he made his points clearly and articulately and did not back down, and ended up being willing to be held in contempt and go to prison with his own client rather than let it go. And while he kept pointing to the malfeasance that Judge Glanville was acting with respect to pressuring one of the witnesses in that case named Little Woody, who was one of the funniest witnesses you've ever seen. So, and he's for the defense. So I know that we have top level talent attorneys on both sides in the Diddy trial. I'm very much looking forward to covering that and breaking that down for you. And I'll be planning on dropping a video by lunchtime, and then as to what happened in the morning each day, and then in the afternoon, what happened in the afternoon, and then I'll probably do wrap-ups at night where I'll be far more extended. I hope you'll follow me for that coverage. Please, while you're here, like, share, and subscribe. I'm not done yet. I'm going to first let you know whether or not I have word on the Diddy trial. And if you want to know for sure, you should follow me at goodlogic.locals.com. Gary Zell hit me with a fitty. I missed the signs of the dog. So glad to see you live in court again. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I started today with reasonable doubt for Karen. Today ends with me convinced Higgins is more likely or not the killer. That's what I'm going to be telling my friend. I'm going to tell him the same thing. Diddy, court will begin an hour early on May 12th to accommodate the selection process and opening statements, which are still slated to begin that day. Oh, so they are planning on going forward that day. Let me see if I can. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Thank you. So it does seem like they're planning on doing opening statements that day. If they're doing opening statements that day, I'm probably not going to stream here. I don't think I'm going to stream here because it takes me, when I walk out my door, if all the timing on the train works and everything like that, because I have to take Jersey Transit to get into the city, and from here for me to get to the city takes about. It's an 8-minute walk to the train. I'll tell you the timing. I'll break it down for you. It's an 8-minute walk to the train. It's like and then it's like 25 minutes, and then I get to Secaucus, and then I got like another, then I have to transfer over to another train, and then it's another 12 minutes from Secaucus into Penn. And so that travel time there from my house to get to Penn Station is somewhere around, let's say, if everything goes well, an hour, and then it's like 20 minutes down by subway to the courthouse in like a 10-minute. It's pretty much, I count like an hour and 20 to an hour and 30 minutes from door to courthouse to being in the courtroom. It's about that. So that means that I have to like leave here. If they're starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, I really need to leave here like 7:30 if I'm going to get there on time for a 9 o'clock start. Usually they don't start 9, but yeah. So that's why if they're telling me that there's gonna be opening statements that day, that's when the trains are running rapidly, when things are happening really fast on the train in the morning. When you're talking about in the afternoon or midday, when I don't have rush hour train schedules, it's like a 2-hour trip by public transportation. So yeah, it's just everything just so I can't rely on that I have to be in the city if opening statements are slated to go that day. I think I have to go down there. Let me see what I find here. Diddy trial, and I'll check the ghetto before I get out of here. Also, trial. Let me see. Diddy jury selection. No, that's not it. Man, this is what I got here on this. This was 2 hours ago, which there could be updates since then. But what I see here is final phase of jury selection for racketeering has been postponed to Monday. And a ruling Friday morning, Judge Arun Subramanian. I gotta get this name. I'm gonna have to learn this name. Oh my god. Subramanian. Judge Arun Subramanian, who's presiding on the case, decided the jury selection will now wrap up on Monday morning due to concerns that jurors might drop out over the weekend if the panel is finalized on Friday. Pool of 45% will be now to 12 jurors and 6 alternates. This final phase is going to last less than an hour, with opening says to follow afterwards. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go down there in the morning. So they're expecting that they're gonna have this thing done. I'm gonna have to go down there on Monday morning. So I'll tell you right now, I'm not gonna be streaming the Karen Reed trial on Monday. That's what I'm taking from this. That's what I'm taking from this. I would appreciate if you could like and subscribe, maybe share with your friends, and follow me at goodlawgist.locals.com so you can get all the updates as far as what I'm doing and where I am. I'm not sure if I'm going to be streaming tomorrow night. I do expect to be streaming over the weekend at some point, and maybe drop a video where I'll give my thoughts as far as this witness or some of my thoughts on Karen Reed. But I'll share with you now where I'm at 3 weeks into this trial is I cannot fathom, given what we've seen so far, I cannot fathom. I don't know that she didn't do it. She really might have hit him. My best guess is I think she thought she hit him. I think early in the morning she thought she hit him. She thought her tail light broke hitting him. She probably didn't realize she hit the thing at 5 o'clock in the morning when she was pulling out. I think she thought she hit him. And I don't think she did. I don't think she did because his injuries are completely inconsistent with being struck by a vehicle zooming backwards. Completely inconsistent with that. And I also don't know. I also question how he could be laying on that lawn. Any of you who can know Turtle Boy, by the way, who I know is has gained tremendous notoriety through this case. I think he likely has the defense's ear, and I would really love to see Alan Jackson employ the green grass theory, which is a theory I came up with this week. And to me, it's the best forensic evidence to exonerate Karen Reed. And that is, if he was laying there, since it was only lightly snowing starting at midnight, there's only started accumulating. Shortly before he gets out of the car, you could still see green grass there. If he got knocked out when he got out of that car and never made it into the house, and was laying in that spot for 6 hours before 5.5 hours before they finally came and found him. When they picked him up, there would have been green grass underneath him. And you wouldn't be laying on 2 inches, 3 inches of snow. Even if there's blustery winds, it doesn't get under his body weight. It would not be under his body weight. So whatever his body weight is pressing down, if he's laying on his back, you wouldn't see it under his shoulder blades. You wouldn't see it under his tush. There would be no snow there at all. It might blow up in the area where, there'll be like faint wisps of snow blowing potentially under the area of his back. Although with the coat there, it's unlikely, with the hooded jacket there, because that sort of will end up filling up the space and harder for snow to blow up under there. I'm telling you, as someone who spent my entire life living in the Northeast and dealing with more snowstorms than I can possibly fathom. That's just the way snow accumulates. So if he was laying there, you would not see it on his back. You would not see it in the area where his tush was resting. You would not see his shoulder blades, potentially where his head, and probably wherever to the degree he's got a billowy coat, wherever that was, you would just see a green patch of grass when they get him up. Now, it would not be green for very long, but when the paramedics get there, there would be green grass there. They would all see the green grass, like, oh yeah, he's been laying here all night. And if it wasn't, if there's whites, if it looks completely white where he was laying, it is impossible. It is impossible that he died as a direct result of Karen Reed striking him. It just doesn't make any sense. There's nothing about it. The only way it would make any sense, if I want to try and find some way she may have possibly be guilty, is if he was rolling around during the course of the night in agony and in pain. But if that was happening, when they're coming out, they would be seeing him. None of this, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense at all. It really is. It's very difficult for me to wrap my head around how that could have happened. And given Brian Higgins and his nature, his relationship with Karen Reed and the frustration he was venting, not just feeling, but venting towards Karen via, his cryptic text messages when he's in Waterfall, and him saying, hey, John O'Keefe, let's go. And then making sure that they're coming. He's not texting Karen to ask Karen, are you coming? He's asking John O'Keefe, are you coming? Why the hell are you asking him that? That's the weirdest thing in the world. But that's of utmost importance to me. To me, he's a much bigger suspect than anyone else here. And the thing with Chloe and the dog, I don't even know. I don't know. To me, it's almost like he met him outside, and Chloe the dog was there. Sees them get into a fight where he slugs him in the face. Chloe the dog might jump in. He falls backwards, bang his head. And they're like, what the hell do we do now? And that would explain why people inside never see John O'Keefe come inside. I don't know. I'm just trying. I'm taking the forensic evidence that we have, and I'm trying to come up with some sort of theory. And I don't know how I'll ever get past the explanation as to how her taillight can kill him and cause no bruises. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Or and the green grass theory also. But if one of you can help spread my green grass theory onto Turtle Boy, and maybe he can get onto the Alan Jackson. I don't care about. I mean, it's nice that I came up with the green grass theory, but yeah, I really want Alan Jackson to use it. And from what I understand, he hasn't used it at all yet. He was flipped over per 911 call. Well, whatever way he's laying, wherever his body weight is pressing, if he's on his shoulders, he's on his elbows, wherever his elbows are resting, there would be no snow. There would be nothing. It would see green. If he's on his stomach, if he's laying face down, which I don't know how he has a head injury, but it's flipped over could mean he's laying on his side, which is possible. that his body naturally curled in the cold into like a fetal type position to warm him, to try and stay as warm as possible. That's possible. You wouldn't see it under his arm or his hip where his weight is pressed down. You wouldn't see any snow there. Whereas where his hip and tush are resting, there would be nothing. There'd be no snow there. So let me do a quick check over in Rumble, make sure I didn't miss anything. Uzelian saying here, Department of Justice announces investigation of Muslim Epic City. I don't know why I'm getting this here now. Why give me this now? Why? I don't know what to do with that. Joe, something you can read about off of Cam? Okay. I appreciate you sharing that. So you're not asking me to do it now. That was, thank you. I'll try to take a look at it. Yeah, I think that we got that other one. Okay. Last one before I get out of here. Final call. FYI, Uncivil Law Turbo on his channel yesterday. You might be able to reach Turbo Boy through Uncivil. Just a thought. I appreciate that. I actually noticed that. I was thinking about reaching out to him and asking him if he has a way to contact Turtle Boy. He probably does. I don't know if Turtle Boy is able to reach Alan Jackson or not, but I think there's a good chance. So, yeah. So I actually had thought of that, and I appreciate you reminding me I need to do that. So there was something else I was supposed to remind that I need to do. But I said, oh yeah, I'm supposed to reach out to Angry Cops. I really want to get a hold of him. I'm supposed to get Angry Cops and see if I can get him on. Talk about his whole Buffalo thing. All right. I got stuff to do behind the scenes. I will see you all maybe tomorrow night. More likely Sunday. We'll see. We'll see what comes up. The only way you'll know for sure is at goodlogic.locals.com because YouTube is ASO and they will not share notifications. Rumble, I don't know how the notifications go. I never heard complaints about it, but you'll definitely find me. You'll definitely get notifications at goodlogic.locals.com. While you're here, please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment in the algorithm. Tell me how much you think I got something right or wrong or whatever, and or how insane you think Bukenik is. Do you think that the jury trusted him at all? Whatever your thoughts are, I want to know it. I do try to check them out. I do try to read your comments. So have a great weekend and Godspeed.